Hi, my name is Richard, and I'd like to welcome you to the very first episode of my new podcast entitled The Future of the World. Now, one of the reasons that I decided to start this podcast was because we're living in some pretty scary times. I mean, we've got the pandemic going on. It's been going on for over a year now. And people are wondering, well, how long are these measures going to be in place? How long are our freedoms to associate and freedoms to, get together and to do the things that we used to enjoy? How long are these going to be restricted? I mean, when are things going to get back to normal? Or is there going to be a new normal? Or are things just going to get worse? Okay, so people are very concerned about the future right now. And because they're concerned about the future, there's a tendency for us to want to get some form of certainty. And you've got online right now, you've got a number of people who are talking, saying they know what's going to happen. They're making predictions. Okay, they're saying they have insiders. They're saying, these powerful people have told them what's going on. These are the operations going on. They've even said, some of them, that they have access to supercomputers which allows them to look into the future, and so that they can, pretty reliably tell us what they think is going to happen. And then you've got other groups who are maybe looking at biblical prophecies or other prophecies and saying, oh, we can see clearly now that this is the time we're in and this is what's happening. Or other people that are using channeling. They're actually channeling higher beings who are telling them what's going to happen in the future. So we have this different mix of commentators out there talking about what's going to happen in the future, and some of them are getting quite large followings because, of course, we really want to know and we're interested in it. The problem comes when they say, well, this is what's going to happen. This person or this group is taking care of it, so we just need to sit back and enjoy the show. Okay, there's nothing we need to do. Everything's being taken care of. Okay, I understand that this appeals to a lot of us, but the problem is, in this case, it really takes us out of the equation. Okay, it kind of takes us out of being involved in the process of creating the future, being part of creating the future. Now, if you've been looking at people making predictions for a while, I think you will agree with me that one thing is pretty true, is that they're usually false. They're usually wrong. They've made predictions, they've times, places, and so forth, and these things just haven't happened. And it's trouble when, instead of saying, well, maybe I should check my sources and I'm not sure, they'll just spin the story. They say, oh, well, here's the explanation, and here's the next prediction, and just keep following me. Everything's gonna work out fine. Okay, so they keep us hoping that the cavalry is going to come, the knight in shining armor is going to come. And that's not to say that hope is bad. I think hope is good. It's good to have people be hopeful about the future. But I think it disempowers us if it's a hope that doesn't involve ourselves being part of it and what we can do. Okay? We have this tendency to be hoping for a savior to come, whether it be a politician or a military leader, some religious icon, or even an extraterrestrial. Okay, any of these beings or entities have been the subject of our idolatry and hoping that they can come and save the future, but that takes us out of the equation. And the problem with that is we don't have to be responsible for the future, and we don't have to take a look at ourselves and ask ourselves, what are we doing to create a better future for mankind? Okay, now I understand that there have been heroes in the past, in our history, that have come forward who have been great, and they have helped humanity in certain ways. But I think the time that we're in now, it has become essential that each one of us becomes that hero. Each one of us becomes that agent for change, an agent for making the world better. I think the phrase, "we are the ones we've been waiting for," is more applicable now than it has ever been in any time in our history. Okay? So what I'm going to be talking about in this podcast is all about what can we do and what kind of an impact do we have on the future. Now, some might argue, well, I don't want to impact the future. I just want to sit back and, let other people do it, which is fine. Everybody is free to choose. But I would invite you to sit back a bit and think about it, about why you came here, what your purpose is here. Imagine if you're a soccer player playing in the World Cup and you're in the final and the crowd is roaring and the game's about to get started. Would you just at that point say, no, I just want to sit on the bench, I want to just watch the game, and I want to let other people decide the outcome? Or would you be excited to play? And if you say you'd be excited to play, well, what about the game called life that we're in? What does it mean for you to play in the game called life? That's a question that I want you to ask yourself, okay? Because I believe each one of us has the power to create the future. And we always have. We always have done that throughout history. The future is created by the collective thoughts, ideas, beliefs, intentions of each one of us, all gathered together in the collective consciousness. Okay? So we have always had the power to create the future. It's just that throughout history, very few people were doing it consciously. Were actually engaged and aware of the process that was going on. And that's likely why, throughout history, we've always had a ruling class. Okay, so think about the pharaohs in Egypt and the emperors in Rome, the kings and queens in England and the rest of Europe. Okay, it seems like, we needed to be told what to do and how to think. And this is exactly what happened. But what these people, what this class of people knew, was aware of, and what separated them from the rest of humanity, is that they knew if they controlled the way we thought and what we believed, then they would be able to project a future and project a world that served them and did not serve humanity. So they really had a tight grip of control over the future at that time. Now, throughout history, of course, mankind has started to awakening, or I should say humankind. We have the Enlightenment period where people started to think about, we are free, and, we are free, but everywhere we're in chains. And when enough people started thinking about that, then the ruling class had to make some adjustments, and they had to accede some power and say, okay, we'll build you a house where you can have representation. And so these things slowly started to happen. And yet, at the same time, if you read history, you see how much the ruling class was desperate to hold on to power and was able to maintain power even though they kind of receded from the front of the stage. They still had a lot of power, and that sort of thing continues today. For example, when the printing press first came out, and people, the everyday person was getting information and learning and knowing what the truth was, they had to create structures that would control that. And now the same thing is happening with the internet today. We had the internet where the proliferation of information between individuals was great, and it was causing them to lose control. So all of a sudden, they've taken over the social media giants, and they're doing all sorts of censorship. What they're really trying to do is prevent people from thinking for themselves and seeing the world the way it really is. All right? So we realize, and when we realize that this ruling class has always been there and is still here and is still exerting influence on us and is this great big power, it makes sense to us why the world is in the shape it's in, but it also makes us feel powerless in some ways. How can one person change the future when there's this organized grid, this pyramid of power that's got so much money and so much influence, and they have so much knowledge? How can one person change things? Well, I'll tell you, one person can change things by becoming aware of who they are and by becoming more aware of what the world is. Okay? In this way, you are in control of your thoughts. And you realize that if you think in a certain way and you believe a certain thing, you are actually having an impact on the future. Now, if we circle back to the great spiritual traditions, we realize this is what they were teaching us. Now, some of these spiritual traditions of the past taught us that the material world is an illusion, and we need to renounce the material world, and we need to focus just on what's real, which is our connection to the divine. And that's fair enough. Okay, but I don't believe now is any longer the time for us to withdraw ourselves from the world as the gurus once did, withdrawing into the forests and being in a state of meditation all the time. I think what's important now is for us to take that wisdom and apply it to the world, apply it to the way we relate to each other on a personal level, in society, and the way we govern ourselves. Okay? Now, in my life coaching sessions, this is kind of the mechanism that's at play. My clients reflect on their past actions, they reflect on their past habits that they want to let go of, they think about, the wisdom that they're becoming aware of, and they commit to new actions in the world that reflect the person that they want to be, as opposed to the reactive way that they have been in the past. When they make changes in the real world, they actually let go of the programming and the old habits and make a real world difference. And in that way, they grow, they become happier, and they have more of a positive impact on others. All right? Now, that doesn't mean everybody needs to engage in a life coaching practice. There are so many different types of practices that generate awareness and generate mindfulness that you could use. You can create your own practice, okay, whatever suits you. The main thing that I want to say is when you engage in some kind of practice where you become more aware of who you are and you become more aware of what the world is and your relationship to it, then not only does your personal life improve, but you will be having a positive impact on the world as well. I mean, in any moment, one person having a new thought or broadening their perspective or integrating their shadow or learning how to love a little bit more freely, that one thing changes the entire mosaic that causes the future to unfold. Okay? You've heard of the butterfly effect? It means that the thought of one person at one particular moment in time, in one particular place, could be the epicenter of a tsunami of positive change that happens on the planet. Okay? And with 8 billion people on the planet, almost, there's really no way of knowing what's going to happen next and when. But the point is, we don't need to know. We didn't come here to predict the future. We came here to create the future. Okay? And we all have different roles in the process. We're not all doing the same thing. Some people gravitate more towards an inner healing and an inner knowledge. Some people, are more moved to outer activism and, expressing how they think things should be and getting the word out to other people. Okay? Passing it on and passing on this knowledge. Okay? So what's important is that you are informed by your inner voice how you want to play this game, what role you want to play. And if you are being informed by truth and by love, then your actions and the way you are in the world cannot help but create a better future for all of us.